In today's video, we have the latest NHL trade rumors concerning teams like the Boston Bruins, St. Louis Blues, Tampa Bay Lightning, as well as the Los Angeles Kings. We also have news from the waiver wire. We have a signing today, some interesting updates from around the league regarding some healthy scratches, some injury updates, and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a lot to cover here today. There was a trade earlier today. In case you missed that, there is a video here on the channel, which I'll link up here in the YouTube cards. There was a trade between the Penguins and the Canucks. Of course, very familiar franchises dealing with each other here. We know that Alvin and Rutherford seem to keep going back to their old Pittsburgh days for a lot of transactions that they complete. They traded Jack Rathbone, who was in desperate need, in my opinion, of a fresh start, over to Pittsburgh. They get Mark Friedman in return. There was also a prospect on either side as well. That's may or may not become an NHL player. No real names that most people would recognize right off the bat. But Friedman for Rathbone essentially is what went down. Gives each team a different style of defenseman. You get Rathbone, smaller, puck mover, good skater, where you get Friedman's a little bit older, a little bit more physical. So, there are some, like differences, you could say, that hopefully works out for both teams. So that, like I said, there's a video on the channel going over that trade a little bit more in depth and more analysis. If you haven't seen it already or want a more of an in-depth update on that news from earlier, check out that video in the YouTube cards. The Penguins also today signed Libor Hajek, except he gets an American Hockey League only deal. Of course, Libor Hajek's been around the NHL for a while now, between his early days in Tampa and then the Rangers. So he's going to be signed to their AHL team, so he won't be eligible for call-up if they run into a situation further into the season down the road that they would like to call him up. Then they'll have to sign him to an NHL two-way deal, and I believe he would need to go on waivers. So for now, he'll play there, and I guess we'll see what the future holds. Speaking of waivers, there is news on that today as well. We have a goaltender on waivers, and that's Devils veteran goalie Keith Kincaid. So he's on waivers. They're trying to send him to the minors. I believe now, with the contract that he had signed before getting a two-way deal with the Devils, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, that he'll actually be loaned to Chicago of the AHL, because I believe they're an independent franchise now. I believe he had an AHL contract with them before he signed with the Devils, unless, of course, they agreed to let him play for the Devils affiliate. I'm not sure where he'll end up exactly, but I'm pretty sure it'll be Chicago. So we'll see. Either way, he'll find out tomorrow if he's picked up or cleared, and expect him to go to the minors if he does indeed clear, which is likely going to be the case. A couple of players on injury updates going to LTIR. The Vancouver Canucks today also, besides making a trade with Rathbone, announced that defenseman Guillaume Brisebois is going to long-term injury reserve. So that's obviously going to be a while getting him back. And there is reportedly still some interest that they might consider signing Ethan Bear once he is healthy and able to play. So we'll see. Bears remains an unsigned, unrestricted free agent that's recovering from surgery. And there is still interest there, and we'll see where that goes. In Minnesota, not necessarily going to be an LTIR situation. It could be, but it's not yet. Alex Goligoski is going to be out for an extended period of time as well, after taking a shot off the ankle foot area in practice, and certainly looks like it did some damage there, and he's going to be out for a while. And another injury update, Josh Norris. It seems like there's a high probability in Ottawa that he's going to play tomorrow against the Washington Capitals. Norris has been out since the start of the season. Obviously ended last year early, only playing a handful of games, having shoulder surgery, and then recovered, and everybody expected him to be 100% for training camp, but that was not quite the case, where he had a few little setbacks, and they're just being extra cautious. So I believe, based on the morning skate today from the Senators and some comments between what the coach said, although DJ Smith didn't really elaborate and leave a whole lot out there, but Drake Batherson was talking to the media after, and he said he was excited to get back on the line with Norris, so it just made it sound like they were expecting him to play tomorrow. Can't confirm that, but it's trending in that direction. After tomorrow, they play again on the weekend, so I would say if he doesn't play tomorrow, some kind of last-minute change, that he'll play on the weekend for sure, at least you would think. A few other players that have been either benched or healthy scratched lately, or will be tonight, sorry. The Philadelphia Flyers are already healthy scratching Morgan Frost. He was a player who took a big step for them last year, but they haven't been impressed so far between end of training camp and the few first NHL games, so he's not going to play tonight. That's not good sign for him. And Buffalo's healthy scratching Victor Olofsson. They're playing the Lightning tonight. They're getting Tyson Jost back in. Olofsson is another player as well that kind of, I would not be shocked at some point if he's traded. He was mentioned in the trade rumor mill a lot over the offseason. Apparently, even after the end of season meetings, Olofsson and his agent were fully expecting that he would be dealt during the summer, and he wasn't. So it's still something that I don't think they'd see as a surprise. So he is a power. Well, he used to be more of a power play specialist. He tends to score more with the man advantage than he does 5-on-5. But at the end of the day, he is a scoring forward who can play a role. So there are teams out there looking for help on the wings, and he might be somebody the teams look to. So don't be shocked if that happens. I don't necessarily think it's coming just because he gets scratched. It's just been a player that's been expected to move for some time, so that could lead to something. In Columbus, last night, they benched newly acquired defenseman and signed long-term Damon Severson for the entire third period against the Red Wings. Certainly not the start to the season you want to see for an asset that you just made an acquisition on and signed to a fairly lucrative long-term deal. So hopefully he can find his game and play better. New Jersey and Lindy Ruff were not happy with their effort against the Panthers last night. He benched Timo Meier, Curtis Lazar, and John Marino for majority of the third period. So again, they lost to the Panthers. They did make it interesting. Florida dominated the game early. The Devils did come back late. They finally woke up and responded, but it was not enough to get over the hump and get the game into overtime or to get a victory. So we'll see where things go on their front. Timo Meier, to me, that was a risky signing. I know he's a great player, has a great history, but he just didn't seem to fit well to me after getting picked up by the Devils at the deadline. And I don't know, that they invested a lot of money there, and just, I don't know, not sure that's going to work out, but I hope everybody's sake it does. But it just seemed like a risky signing, just based on the fit, not the player. I like the player. He's going to be a goal scorer in this league for a long time, but just hasn't quite gelled with that team just yet. Now, on the rumor section of the video, a few things to look at. I want to start with LA. Frank Saravalli on his show today on dailyfaceoff.com was urging the LA Kings that they really need to address their goaltending. And it's been something that's been rumored for really since training camp started anyways. Obviously, they went into training camp with Cam Talbot and Phoenix Copley. David Riddick is their number 3, and at this point, the numbers for Talbot and Copley just are not good. LA is a really good team otherwise, and it's a shame. And what Saravalli was saying is that he expects them to go out and address this in the short term. And he's not the first person in the NHL world I've heard say this, but some names he mentioned that they should be looking into would be Denny Vladar in Calgary. He said maybe offer Calgary a second-round pick for Vladar. Might be able to get something done. Would they talk to Philly about Carter Hart, who could be a long-term replacement for them? Montreal's carrying 3 goaltenders right now. Would they consider Caden Primo, or would they talk to, I know Jake Allen has a partial no trade, or I think he has I'm not sure how many teams it is right off the bat, but I know he does have some trade protection, but would they talk to him? I don't think they want to move Montembeault, but would they move either of the other two? There's options out there that they could certainly look to, and Saravalli made some good points that, if they don't, this might not be a successful season for them. They have good defense. They have a great forward group. I mean, obviously not having Victor Arvidsson for some time is going to hurt a little bit, and we'll see where things go. Obviously tonight, LA goes into Winnipeg. It's the return of Pierre-Luc Dubois to Winnipeg. I'll be curious to see how the fan reacts to his return. I don't know if he'll get booed or how the fans really feel about him there after not wanting to stay. Obviously, he did a big interview with The Athletic and kind of let a lot of the feelings out, and essentially kind of made it more about what he wants to do, not so much that it was any ill feelings towards Columbus or wanting it up there, or Tortorella, or the Jets, or anything like that. Certainly an interview I'd recommend you may want to check out if you have access to The Athletic. The St. Louis Blues. We know the Blues have been a team to watch for potential defense trades. They want to shake up their blue line, and they're trying to integrate some youngsters this year, and guys like Perunovich and Tucker have managed to stay on the roster because I think they're concerned they're going to lose them to waivers. And because of that, a depth defenseman and a little bit older guy in Calle Rosen has become available. So the Blues are certainly open to moving him, and he could be like a sneaky good depth trade. I don't think he's going to, get traded into a team and just kind of, take over a top 4 spot immediately or anything of that nature, but he could be just an under the radar type of deal for a team to add that can play third pair or be your 6-7. That might prove to be very valuable. He's 29, got a fair bit of experience playing overseas. Come over to North America between Toronto and St. Louis. Has played in 87 NHL games. Just a little bit more of a mature defenseman who spent a fair bit of time in the minors. Like he's not gonna be amazing, but he's looks like he should be just a good depth option, and I think he could be had for an extremely cheap price. So any teams that are looking for D depth, that's a player to watch. And Jimmy Murphy of Boston Hockey Now is suggesting that, which really does not surprise me. Given where everything is with the Bruins, obviously we know that their center depth right now isn't where it needs to be, but they are hopeful that these younger players that they have will turn out to be something like Matthew Poitras, a young, recently drafted player, is stuck with the Bruins through training camp. He's still there now. We'll see if he gets it past the 9-game tryout or what have you, but they're optimistic about the future with him. Obviously, they have Pavel Zacha, they have Charlie Coyle, but as far as legit top 6 center, like there's a hole there for sure. And I think that depending on what happens with the youngster, they may have a hole in the lineup as early as a few weeks from now, let alone the future, right? So one name that he mentions that Boston will definitely be all over if he gets to the point of being available, it's Tampa Bay Lightning captain Steven Stamkos. We've talked about Stamkos recently because of the comments he's made, being quite open about the fact of how disappointed he is that the Lightning made no effort to extend him. He's seen the Lightning look after a lot of his teammates and not do the same for him. Apparently, when he almost became a UFA because he was really close to leaving Tampa, when the current contract he has when that was signed, that was about 2016, I think it was. The Bruins were in on that as well. They were hoping to be one of the players to sign him. He ended up staying in Tampa at the 11th hour. So, of course, that was interesting, and they were certainly they tried again on the Tavares sweepstakes. They didn't get too far with John Tavares, but still, like they kind of saw the future coming here. That guys like Bergeron and Krejci were getting a little bit older. They knew they wouldn't have them there forever. Now it's been a little while, right? And at the same time, like for some of these guys, they would have been ways to fit them in the lineup regardless, right? Even if they still had those guys there, because obviously 2016. They were very much still a big part of their team. But at this point, he would be a welcome addition, whether you play him at center or on the wing. I know he's often been a winger with the Lightning lately, but he can still play center. And really, Boston would be all over that. There's not going to be a lot of high-profile UFA centermen to go after. So at the end of the day, if he does not get a deal worked out with Tampa and hits free agency, I don't think he'll be traded to Boston because that's a division rival for one. And I just don't see Tampa going down that road. And if let's say the Lightning do take a step back this year and miss the playoffs, or they're not going to be like a wild card team, which I've predicted in my prediction videos, by the way, in case you haven't seen them, I do think Tampa is not going to be as strong this year. I'm still not convinced they're going to trade Stamkos, but if they do, he has full control over where he goes, and I have no clue how he would feel about it, or if he'd want to go to Boston or anywhere else for that matter. We know his preferred outcome is to resign in Tampa and stay. So we'll have to see where that goes, obviously. But at this point, if he becomes available, I would imagine it's going to be through UFA status next offseason. The Bruins will definitely be all over that, trying to be in the mix. But they certainly would not be the only ones at all. It would be really weird to see Stamkos in a Bruins jersey, but it makes total sense given where they're at with the franchise, that if he hits the open market, that they're trying to get their claws in there. So we'll see what happens. But let me know your thoughts. Do you think there's any chance the Bruins and Stamkos could get together should he become a UFA next offseason? And, of course, let me know your thoughts on all the other news and rumors from today as well. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.